It was a busy evening in one of the city's most expensive and elegant restaurants. The sparkling chandeliers above cast a warm glow over the guests seated at their tables, enjoying their pricey meals. The waitstaff moved through the dining room with grace, making sure everyone had everything they needed. Amidst the bustling crowd, no one noticed Keanu Reeves sitting quietly at a table near the kitchen. He was dressed simply in his usual understated way, a stark contrast to the glamorous surroundings. He took small sips of water, his eyes calmly watching everything around him. The sound of clinking silverware and quiet chatter filled the air. Waiters glided from table to table, serving food to the guests. In the kitchen, however, the atmosphere was anything but peaceful. The head chef, Victor, was yelling at the kitchen staff, his face red with frustration. Plates clattered and pots and pans were slammed down as the kitchen workers scrambled to keep up with the pressure of the evening rush. Victor's voice boomed above the chaos, his words cutting through the noise. "What are you doing? Why is this taking so long? Get it together, people." In the corner of the kitchen stood a young waiter named Liam. He was holding a tray of food, his hands shaking slightly. His uniform wasn't perfect, and his nervousness was evident as he tried to balance the tray. He was doing his best to keep up, but it wasn't enough. Victor's sharp eyes immediately locked onto him. "What are you doing just standing there like a statue?" Victor barked. "Do you think these plates are going to serve themselves? Move it, idiot." Liam flinched, quickly mumbling an apology and trying to shuffle out of the kitchen. But Victor wasn't done. He rushed over and grabbed Liam's arm roughly, causing the tray of food to wobble dangerously. "I told you before," Victor hissed, "if you mess up again, you're out of here. This is a fine dining establishment, not some fast food joint." Liam's face turned crimson with embarrassment. The other kitchen staff avoided looking at him, too afraid to get involved. They had seen this kind of behavior from Victor many times before, and they didn't want to be the next target of his anger. Liam bit his lip to hold back the tears, but he couldn't stop shaking. He knew he couldn't afford to lose this job, not after his parents had spent all their savings on medical bills. This job was all he had left. In the dining room, Keanu noticed Liam's trembling hands as he made his way out of the kitchen, trying to deliver plates to a table. Keanu's eyes followed Liam, noticing how the young man bit his lip, trying to keep his composure. Just then, the loud voice of Victor erupted again from the kitchen. "Unbelievable. You call this service? No wonder customers complain about you." Victor stormed out from the kitchen, his booming voice silencing the room. All eyes turned toward him as he stormed across the dining room, heading straight for Liam. "You're a disgrace to this restaurant," Victor shouted. "If you can't handle a simple task, maybe you should find a different job. Something more suited to your abilities." Liam's hands tightened into fists at his sides, his chest heaving as he tried to control his anger. He was humiliated, but he couldn't respond. He didn't want to make things worse. The whole room was now silent, and the guests in the dining room watched the scene unfold, unsure of what to do. Before Liam could say anything, a calm voice broke the tension. "That's enough," Keanu said as he stood up from his table. The entire room fell silent and everyone turned to look at him. Victor stopped in his tracks and looked Keanu up and down, sizing him up with a sneer. "And who are you?" Victor demanded. "A food critic? A health inspector? No. Then sit down and mind your own business. This has nothing to do with you." Keanu took a slow step closer, his voice steady but firm. "It has everything to do with me. When someone is treated like that, it's wrong. You don't get to humiliate people just because you think you're better than them." Victor laughed, a sharp, mocking sound. "Oh, please. Save the hero speech for someone who cares. Do you even know who I am? I've been running this kitchen for 10 years. My standards are what keep this place at the top." Keanu didn't change his expression. His eyes stayed calm and focused. "Your standards won't mean much if no one wants to work for you," he said simply. Victor rolled his eyes and waved his hand dismissively. "Do yourself a favor and stay out of it," he sneered. "You don't belong here." Keanu's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. "You're right," he said, his voice smooth and steady. "I don't belong here. But I think that's about to change." Before Victor could respond, Keanu pulled out his phone and made a quick call. "Yes, it's me," Keanu said into the receiver. "I'm ready to finalize the deal. Send over the paperwork." The room was filled with whispers as diners and staff alike exchanged confused glances. Victor frowned, clearly puzzled. "What deal?" he asked, his voice filled with confusion. Keanu hung up the phone and turned to face Victor. "You're not just insulting an employee," Keanu said calmly. "You're insulting the future owner of this restaurant." A shocked silence fell over the room. Liam blinked, his eyes wide in disbelief. The other staff members exchanged stunned looks, and some of them struggled to hide their smiles. They had all endured Victor's cruelty for years, but none of them had ever imagined something like this happening. "What?" Victor stammered, his face draining of color. "What are you talking about?" Keanu nodded. "That's right. As of tomorrow, this restaurant will be under new management. I've been considering buying it for a while, and tonight just made up my mind." Gasps filled the room. The guests whispered excitedly, trying to figure out who this mysterious man was. Liam just stared at Keanu, still trying to process what he had heard. Victor, however, wasn't ready to give up control so easily. "You think you can just walk in here and take over?" he snapped. "This is my kitchen. This is my restaurant." Keanu's gaze softened, but his voice was still firm. "It was your kitchen," he said. "But now it's going to be a place where everyone is treated with respect." Keanu turned to Liam, who was standing nearby, still in shock. "You deserve better than this," Keanu said. "If you want to stay, I'd like you to be part of the team when we rebuild this place." Liam's voice was barely a whisper as he said, "Thank you, sir." "I don't know what to say." Keanu smiled gently. "You don't have to say anything. Just remember that people like Victor don't define your worth." The atmosphere in the restaurant shifted dramatically. Victor, who had been so confident moments ago, now stood frozen, his ego shattered. The diners began to clap softly at first, unsure of what was happening. But as the realization set in, the applause grew louder, echoing through the room. Victor, unable to bear the humiliation any longer, tried to argue. "You can't just replace me," he shouted, his voice cracking. "I've worked so hard for this place. I built it from nothing. I sacrificed everything for it." Keanu's expression softened, but his words were unshakable. "Sometimes, Victor," he said quietly, "the hardest lesson to learn is that respect is earned, not demanded. And tonight, you've shown everyone that you haven't earned it." For a moment, Victor seemed ready to argue again, but then he saw the truth in Keanu's words. His shoulders slumped and the fight left him. Without another word, he turned and stormed out of the restaurant, slamming the kitchen door behind him. With Victor gone, the tension in the room finally lifted. The guests who had watched the drama unfold began to applaud, and the staff exchanged relieved smiles. The air in the restaurant felt lighter, more hopeful. A new beginning was in store for everyone at the restaurant, and Keanu had shown them that standing up for what's right could change everything. As they turned to Keanu in awe, Liam stood still, holding his tray, his mind racing. He hadn't just seen a fight, he had seen someone save everything. Keanu stepped forward, and it was clear to everyone that he was in charge without even trying. "This restaurant can be great," he said, talking to both the workers and the customers. "But greatness starts with how we treat each other. From now on, this will be a place where kindness and respect are the most important things." He turned to Liam and gently put his hand on Liam's shoulder. "You've been through a lot," Keanu said. "Take a break. You've earned it." Liam blinked quickly, trying not to cry. "Thank you, sir," he said, his voice cracking. "I don't know how to thank you." Keanu smiled. "You already did." The other workers started to gather around, looking more hopeful than before. Sophia, the server, asked carefully, "So what happens now?" Keanu looked around at everyone and the once chaotic restaurant that now felt much lighter. "Now," he said, "we build something better together." A man in a suit entered the restaurant, holding a briefcase. He walked up to Keanu with a smile and handed him some papers. "The transfer is complete, Mr. Reeves. The restaurant is officially yours." Keanu nodded and thanked him. Then he turned back to the workers. "Let's make this place one we can all be proud of." Keanu spent the rest of the night walking around the restaurant, talking to the workers and making sure they felt heard. He listened to their stories about how their old boss, Victor, had been mean to them, how they worked long hours without thanks, and how they dreamed of a better place to work. Liam sat at a table, quietly drinking water and watching Keanu. He was amazed by how Keanu was talking to everyone. It wasn't just about taking over the restaurant, Keanu was building a family. As the night went on, Keanu talked to each worker individually. He asked them things no boss had ever asked before. What's the hardest part of your job? What would make this place better? How can we make this a place worth staying for? Everyone was shocked by how kind and humble Keanu was. Sophia, the server, stood next to Liam and whispered, "Is this really happening? I've never seen anyone care this much." Liam shook his head. "I don't know who he is, but he's changing everything." In the kitchen, the workers started to share their stories with Keanu. For the first time in a long time, they laughed. Raphael, a tough cook who had been treated badly by Victor for years, laughed as he talked to Keanu. So, you're not just a rich guy swooping in to save the day? Keanu smiled and shrugged. I'm just a guy who believes people do better when they're treated better. Raphael looked at him and nodded. Well, if you really mean it, you might just have a chance to turn this place around. Keanu leaned in. I'm serious. And I'm going to need your help to do it. The next day, Keanu gathered everyone in the dining hall. The chandelier lights made the room feel warm. The guests had already left, but the workers stayed. Keanu stood at the front of the room, calm and confident. This restaurant isn't just a business, he said. It's a reflection of the people who work here. If we treat each other with respect, it will show in the food, the service, and the experience for the customers. The workers looked at each other, some nodding, some still unsure. Keanu went on, starting tomorrow, things will be different. No more yelling, no more humiliation. Everyone will be part of the team, and that includes fair wages, proper breaks, and a culture where your ideas matter. The workers were surprised. For many of them, this was the first time anyone promised anything more than just a paycheck. Just then Victor, the old boss, stormed into the room. His face was full of anger. You think you can just erase me from this place? He shouted, pointing at Keanu. You don't understand how things work. This restaurant will fail without me. The workers tensed up, but Keanu stayed calm. Victor, he said firmly, if you're here to threaten or scare people, you should leave. But Victor wasn't ready to leave. You don't know what you're doing. You think they'll respect you? They'll walk all over you as soon as you let your guard down. Keanu stepped forward, his calmness now full of quiet strength. Respect isn't something you demand, Victor. It's something you earn. And from what I've seen, you haven't earned it. Victor's face twisted with rage, but before he could speak, Raphael stepped forward. You've had your chance, Victor, he said firmly. We've put up with your garbage for years and we're done. Sophia also spoke up. You treated us like we were nothing. But Keanu, she said, he's already shown more respect in one night than you've shown in a decade. The other workers nodded in agreement. Their voices grew stronger as they stood together against Victor. Realizing he had no control anymore, Victor turned and stormed out of the restaurant for the last time. Keanu turned back to the workers, his expression softening. This won't be easy, he said. Change never is. But if we work together, we can make this place amazing. Liam stepped forward, his voice shaking but full of determination. We're ready to try. For the first time, I feel like this place might actually be worth staying at. Keanu smiled. Good. Let's make it happen. The workers cheered, feeling the weight of the years of mistreatment lifting. They started to believe that a better future was possible. Keanu's calm leadership had already made them trust him, and the restaurant, which had once been full of fear, now had a chance to thrive on respect and unity. The next morning, the restaurant was full of a different energy. Gone were the tired faces and rushed steps of overworked workers. Instead, there was a feeling of hope. Keanu arrived early, dressed simply, and began helping to set up the restaurant. He wiped down counters, straightened chairs, and even polished silver with Liam, who couldn't stop looking at him. Sir, you don't have to do this, Liam said quietly. Keanu chuckled softly. If we're going to build a team, Liam, it starts with showing that no one is too important to help out. Liam nodded, his respect for Keanu growing. I've never seen anyone like you, he admitted. Not in a place like this. Keanu smiled. You'd be surprised how far kindness can go. Later, Keanu called a staff meeting before the restaurant opened. The workers gathered, feeling nervous but curious about what would happen. Keanu stood at the front, his voice calm but strong. This isn't going to be like before, he said. We're not just running a restaurant. We're creating a place where people want to be, both the workers and the guests. That means no more yelling, no more humiliation, and no more fear. From now on, we're building a team. He paused to let it sink in. I know trust doesn't come easily, especially after everything you've been through. But I promise you, if you're willing to give this a chance, we'll create something amazing together. Raphael, the chef, raised his hand. What about Victor? He asked. What's stopping him from coming back and ruining everything? Keanu's face softened. Victor won't be coming back, he said simply. But even if he tried, this place isn't about one person anymore. It's about all of us. If we stand together, no one can take that away. The workers exchanged glances, their doubts fading into determination. Sophia stepped forward. If you're serious about this, I'm in, she said. We've put up with so much for so long. It's about time things changed. Keanu nodded. I'm serious and I'll need all of you to make it work. This is your first day under new management. As the doors opened, the workers moved with new confidence. The customers walked in, unaware of the big changes happening behind the scenes. Keanu stayed on the floor, quietly watching, helping when needed. His calm presence made the workers feel more relaxed. They found themselves smiling more and snapping less. Liam worked at the front of the restaurant, feeling a rush of pride as he greeted customers. For the first time, he wasn't just another face in the crowd. He was part of something special. It was an exciting feeling, like he had a real role to play, and he liked it. In the kitchen, Raphael worked with a new focus and energy. The kitchen, which used to be filled with tension and stress, was now full of teamwork. Raphael found himself laughing with the other chefs as they worked together to prepare the day's special dishes. It felt different in a good way. There was a calm, and the chefs were all in it together, supporting each other. The atmosphere was nothing like before. Later in the evening, the restaurant doors opened, and an older couple walked in. They were regular customers, known for their careful tastes and high expectations. As they sat down, they noticed a few things had changed. The staff was warmer, and every dish on the table looked perfect. Keanu, the owner, walked over to their table, his presence calm and friendly. "How's everything so far?" Keanu asked with a welcoming smile. The husband chuckled. "Well, it's a lot better than last time." "What's changed?" Keanu smiled back. "Just the way we do things now." The couple laughed, clearly impressed, and Keanu moved on to let them enjoy their meal. Liam was watching from a distance, and he couldn't help but feel a deeper respect for Keanu. He had changed things here, and the people could feel it. At the end of the night, the staff gathered in the dining room. They were tired but happy. They had worked hard, but for the first time in years, they weren't worried about the next day. Keanu stood in front of them, his face warm but serious. "Today was a good start," Keanu said. "But this is just the beginning. We have a lot of work to do, and it won't always be easy. But if we keep treating each other with respect, we can make this place something truly special." The staff cheered and clapped, their excitement growing. Liam, standing in the back of the room, smiled. For the first time in his life, he felt like he truly belonged. It was a feeling he'd never had before. In the next few weeks, big changes kept happening at the restaurant. Keanu wasn't just the owner anymore. He was involved in everything. He helped with the menu, worked on improving the atmosphere, and made sure the staff had everything they needed to succeed. Everything was getting better, from the food to the customer service. It felt like a brand new place. Then one evening, Victor walked back into the restaurant. He was dressed in casual clothes, looking much less confident and more nervous than before. The staff froze when they saw him. They remembered how harsh and controlling Victor used to be. Raphael was ready to stand up to him, but Keanu raised his hand to stop him. Victor walked slowly up to Keanu, his face full of regret. "I know I made a lot of mistakes," Victor said in a soft voice. "I thought that running this place meant I had to be in control of everything. But now I see that I was wrong. You've done something here that I could never do. The staff respects you. The customers are happy. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." Keanu listened carefully, nodding. "Admitting your mistakes is the first step," Keanu said. "But what matters is what you do next." Victor paused for a moment, then asked, "Do you think there's a place for me here again?" "I want to make things right." Keanu smiled gently. "Everyone deserves a second chance," he said. "But respect has to be earned. If you're willing to work hard and start fresh, there's a spot for you in the kitchen." The staff was unsure at first, but under Keanu's guidance, Victor began to prove himself. He worked quietly, doing his best and following orders instead of giving them. Slowly, the other staff members started to trust him again. Liam, who had been one of Victor's biggest targets in the past, was surprised when Victor came to him one night and said, "I owe you an apology. I treated you horribly, and you didn't deserve any of it." Liam was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Thank you. That means a lot." For the first time, there was a feeling of mutual respect between them. It was a big change for both of them. Finally, the day came for the restaurant's grand reopening. The staff wore new uniforms, the menu was full of fresh dishes, and the dining room looked beautiful. Guests were excited to see the changes they had heard so much about. Keanu stood at the entrance, greeting everyone personally. He wasn't there to show off. He was there as a leader who believed in the power of change. In the kitchen, Raphael and Victor worked side by side, their old problems long forgotten. Now they worked as a team. Sophia served customers with a smile, her confidence shining. Liam ran the dining room calmly, no longer the nervous young waiter he once was. He had grown into a leader. At the end of the night, Keanu stood in the kitchen with the staff, looking at all of them with pride. "Look around you," Keanu said. "This isn't just a restaurant anymore. It's a family. And each one of you has helped make this happen." The staff cheered and clapped, filled with gratitude and joy. Keanu smiled, knowing that the work they had done together had made a real difference. His job here was done, but the changes he had made would last. The restaurant quickly became famous, not just for its amazing food but also for the story behind it. People heard about how the staff treated each other with kindness and respect, and soon more and more guests came to experience it for themselves. Keanu eventually stepped back from the day-to-day work and left the restaurant in the hands of the team he had helped build. But his lessons stayed. Liam, now a confident leader, made sure the restaurant continued to be a place where everyone felt valued, both staff and guests. Keanu moved on to his next quiet act of kindness, knowing that this story was just one of many in his journey to make the world a better place. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories. I'll see you in the next video.